Alrighty, what's up everybody? It's Joe from JLW Games coming at you with another cool video, and we're back in Planet Coaster 2 with a quick little side project that I did within a couple of hours or so. This is going to be a mock Xtreme spinning coaster, and it's going to be a nice blueprint, and the link is in the description if you guys want to check out this blueprint for yourself. Just note that you will need the no track limits mod, so if you are on console, unfortunately you won't be able to use this blueprint, unfortunately, but if you're on PC and you do have the No Limits track mod, be sure to download it, and it is available. Not link, but the share code is going to be in the description if you guys want to check this blueprint out for yourselves. But in the meantime, you guys are here to watch the progress of this amazing coaster. Now, I did have a few different a few changes here and there when I decided on how I wanted to start the ride. I was going to do a JoJo roll right out of the station, but I decided to go with like a little small drop with a turn in the end. It's just what I decided to do. This will also feature an unload station as well. So we are going to have a load station and an unload station with this. Now, the idea I had with this particular coaster is with the no track limits mod, if you configure it right, you can actually do different track pieces that you wouldn't usually be able to do. So now with the switch tracks available from the DLC, with the raid coaster and the motorbike coaster, we can now, with the mod of course, be able to add these swing launches and these switch tracks to other rides that we have in the game. So with this mod, I was able to use it for a switch track on the Xtreme Spinner. Therefore, we can do a swing launch with the Xtreme Spinner and some switch tracks, which is pretty darn cool, honestly, to be able to do that. And I don't think it's far off to say that it's something that could potentially be possible at some point if Mach decides to continue to do more Mach Xtreme spinning coasters. So I wanted to start things off with like some 90-degree hills going straight up and straight down. So we did like this little turnaround, slightly similar to Ride to Happiness, except it does a full 180 on this. So, and then of course I wanted to do a vertical loop. I was checking out some of the end-game loops, but I ultimately decided to create my own custom loop, which I don't have a whole lot of experience doing my own custom vertical loops. Vertical loops are a little tricky and you have to get it right. And of course, getting the height correct to get the right amount of speed was also a little bit of a challenge, and I know that I'm not the greatest at doing these sorts of things, but I decided to give it a go, and give it a go I did, and it turned out I thought pretty decent. So I wanted to make sure that it was big enough, of course, to not go through it too fast, but also make sure that it looks the shaping of it was pretty solid. So it did take a little bit of time and finessing around here to get it exactly where I wanted, but overall it turned out pretty good. So yeah, so I wanted to do a swing launch on this. Now I'm not sure if I'm the only one that has this issue with the no limits mod, but with the new swing launches, there is a little bit of an issue or a bug with this mod, with utilizing those swing launches, where it won't let you continue. It will let you use or continue the track on one part of the switch track, but it won't let you continue it on the other. And when we get into it, I'll talk about that a little bit more. But there is a pretty easy way to actually fix that, and it only takes literally seconds to get it to work. And basically, you do the trick where you line the track up and get it to connect like that, and then you can continue on and do your spike. So it was fairly easy to do overall, which was pretty nice. But yeah, we did this little wave turn after the vertical loop, which turned out really nice, like a elongated wave turn, like kind of a speed wave turn, and then a little bit of a 0G roll coming out of that. That 0G roll exit comes through a turn, and then we do kind of like this little kind of off-axis airtime hill, kind of, and then that is going to get us into our swing launch and our switch track right here. So if you'll look closely in this, you'll see how I'll delete it and then connect it on the other side. That's how I get it connected from the other side, because there is that little bit of an issue where it doesn't want to work or continue the track, so you can't continue the track on the other side, but there is that little finesse that we can do right there, that little a little bit of connection that we can do to get it to work. And then, of course, I went into this little Immelman, and then we do a couple of turns into the brake run, and then that's basically going to be the layout. The layout itself didn't take that long. I think I spent a good hour or so, maybe not even a full hour on this layout. I had a little bit of trial and error in some spots, but it turned out pretty solid, and I was pretty happy with it. So honestly, you know, the Mach Xtreme Spinning Coaster is one of my favorite coasters to actually build in the game, so that is why I wanted to do this today, because I didn't really have a solid blueprint that to share with you guys, and now with this, I will. So, and I wanted to make it unique in some way, so adding that swing launch with the switch track was a good way to do that, and give it a cool little unique aspect for it. So yeah, so there's a lot of different adjustments that I made and everything until I got it completely exactly where I wanted. This train ride will be able to run 3 trains on the ride at the same time, so we can actually utilize that unload station pretty well, so the guests are able to get off the ride without having to just stay put on the platform. They can actually, instead of waiting for the next train to be dispatched, they can actually get off pretty quickly, and it's good efficiency for the ride. So the ride itself is about 3,300 some odd feet. It's got a max speed of 53 miles per hour. So I think it has some fairly realistic stats for a Mach Xtreme spinning coaster, and of course utilizing something unique, which isn't not unnecessarily unrealistic or anything. I don't obviously think Mach has done any like swing launch switch tracks like this before. Maybe they have. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But yeah, so we got a pretty cool layout going on here, and it took me quite a bit of time before it was a lot of different adjustments and such to get the trains to the speed that I wanted and everything like that. But it did come out very, very nicely. Now for this, we are going to be doing a little bit of some custom supports, but not a ton, but just in some spots that I feel like obviously really kind of needed to make it look nice, for like the spike, the vertical loop, and those 90-degree turns, and a little bit on the Immelman. And that's about it for the custom supports, honestly, because the rest of the supports actually didn't do too bad. The only bad part about them is they are a little thin. I wish Frontier would make their support structures a little bit thicker, because they are a little bit small. Now I did want to add a little bit of, or I did want to add a, trying to add a block zone, a block break right here, mostly because like in real life these launches and such would act as a block, but you can't really do it unless it's a holding section. That's the only launch piece that will actually allow you to utilize that as a block section. So I try to sneak in some of these little block pieces as much as I can, which does help in. So, but also we want to create a nice little station here and blend our load station with our unload station. At least that's what I like to do, is to kind of blend them together so they look like they're one big piece. Unless you have 2 different buildings and for your unload station, that can also work as well. But for this purpose, I wanted to make it just one big platform for both. So that way, there is still a glitch with the unload station. It's fine after like the first cycle or so, but I don't know why Frontier still hasn't gotten a fix for it. Hopefully they're going to be working on it soon. But the first train to go through the unload station will just fly through it for some reason. But after the first train goes through, it does fix itself. Hopefully that is something that Frontier will look into the future and get kind of fixed up at some point with like some sort of hot fix or something like that. And it's kind of a minor bug, because again, it doesn't stay like that. It would suck if it did stay like that, because then the unload stations would basically be useless at that point. But yeah, so I'm sure they're aware of it, but It just is a small bug that hopefully will get fixed with the unload stations, because the unload stations can sometimes be a little bit buggy in that way. So with that being said, this station is very, very simple, by the way. I didn't want to spend too much time on scenery. This layout is mostly going to be, it's mostly going to be focused on the coaster itself and not too much scenery. So when it comes to like our queue line and such like that, we don't focus too much on that. We're going to focus a lot more on our layout and making the coaster look good. But of course, we need to make sure we have some sort of decent looking station at the same time. So I decided to go with a little bit of, I guess, kind of a barn type of theme. And this was going to be kind of like a tornado of some sort. I mean, the name of the ride is called Blazing Tornado. I was thinking about calling it just Tornado, but then I was like, let me give it some sort of difference in the name. You know, Tornado is kind of a little bit of a cliche name for a coaster, so, but it is a spinning coaster, and of course it just kind of fixes, or kind of makes sense, you know? So I figured you could like make it a fiery tornado of some sorts, and that's kind of the theme, is that this is kind of like a fire tornado. This wouldn't be like a super heavily themed ride, but it is a nice layout. So that's kind of what we're focused on, is more layout more than anything else. So I don't want to say skimmed through the station, but I did kind of just give it, in a way, kind of a generic kind of quick station that didn't take too long, that's not like crazy detailed. For instance, this is just a really quick, short, little one-off video, so it's not going to be obviously like a series. So you'll see, I like to do these once in a while, and most of the time I try to get them done in one go. It's hard for me sometimes to do that, but I wanted to do that for this project, so it's just a really quick blueprint for a Mach Xtreme spinner coaster. Now, this next part is going to be really neat, because it's going to have this little mechanism that starts the rotation of the cars right out of the station. Time Traveler utilizes one of these, and I wanted to visually make that piece in there, so it was kind of trying to figure out exactly what pieces would be the best to use, but also try and make it to where it doesn't clip through the train as well, which is also a little bit of a challenge as well. So I also adjusted it over into this direction, and it kind of turned out pretty good, because the one on Time Traveler kind of looks similar to what we did there. So that is pretty awesome. And I had to get the catwalks in here on the launches, because I didn't have it on the swing launch just yet. And now we get into the fun part, which is some custom supporting. So obviously I started with the spike, because I feel like obviously that is the place that needs the custom supports than most, because like in-game supports can't really compute or generate when you go or creating a spike and such. I wish it would, but I can understand the programming of that can be a little tricky. So I'm just glad that we can create our own custom supports at some point easily. So I decided to do just like a generic spike support. I'm not sure if this is what it would be, but this to me would be about what the support structure would look like. I'm no expert when it comes to custom supports, or what supports should do, or like the engineering behind it. I just do something that I think looks somewhat realistic and would, look pretty solid or pretty good. So that's kind of my idea here, is I'm like, this looks pretty good, but I think this would work in real life for a structure like this overall. But yeah, again, we're only going to do limited amounts of custom supports on this ride. I'm not going to do the entire ride. If it was like a full park or something like that, or a big project, I would. But since this is just a smaller project, I decided just to do semi-custom supports, which means I'm just going to do the sections that I feel like that I need to do, and then like everything else just let be. So, and I would, because custom supporting an entire ride does take quite some time. So if you do the entire ride, it's going to be hours upon hours, and I don't mind custom supporting. I think custom supporting is not too bad of too much of a tedious part. It can be at times, but depending on what kind of supports I'm doing, these loop supports were a little bit one of those things that are kind of difficult to try and get right, but that's okay. It turned out pretty good still, and I actually made these supports off of memory of like Mox loops, because I kind of have an idea of what their supports are for their large loops, and I actually kind of did this off of memory instead of coming off of a reference, which is actually pretty interesting. I thought they turned out pretty good, all things considered, as well, because like I've made my fair share of these kind of supports, and they're kind of tough to kind of accomplish sometimes. So you got to be a little flexible, and especially if I have a lot of track around, you know, sometimes you have to make adjustments to get those support beams and structures to go around the track below and such like that. So you got to be a little bit careful on where you place your beams and stuff like that and such like that. So I also didn't mention it before, but I tried to utilize using the thicker spine on the high stress points of the track, because you'll see that a lot on these kind of mock coasters. They will have those kind of like little thicker spines on the bottom on those higher stress areas to give it a bigger backbone for the track pieces, which is very, very nice. But yeah, these structures and these supports actually turned out quite well. So pretty happy with how those turned out. And I also needed to do a transfer track of some type, and I don't know if Mach has made any sort of like this, but this is a vertical. I decided, why not do like a vertical transfer track instead of a horizontal one. So I had a lot of like, this is a raised station, pretty big raised station. So I was like, you could definitely fit a shop down there. And yes, you can only do one train at a time, but it's long enough to where you could probably fit 2 trains in here, which would be pretty awesome. I like the idea of the vertical ones right there. They're pretty cool. So that's what we end up doing here. And again, you could fit multiple trains into this, and we're just gonna use our imagination. Now, I don't know if the structure would be correct for a vertical transfer, but I'm not sure. We're just gonna roll with it. So with that being said, this was going to be the trickier kind of part, and that is going to be the support structure for these vertical hills, these 90-degree hills going up and down. And I was trying to figure out exactly what would be the best type of supports for these, and I just kind of used my imagination more than anything, and kind of like what I feel like. So I kind of modeled it a little bit, not too much, but a little bit off of Time Traveler, because obviously it has a 90-degree drop right out of the station. So I thought maybe that would be an appropriate kind of inspiration for these kind of supports. So a little bit on that, and then also with just some stuff in general. It looks and it turned out pretty good, I think. Like, I decided that it looked pretty solid. Let me know in the comments section. I'd love to hear you guys' feedback on the support structures that I used on this, because I'm not the greatest at custom supporting when it comes to like knowing how these supports would be in real life. So yeah, give me some feedback on that if you're a master of custom supporting. So I figured I'd do some wider supports on this, just because it is kind of one of the taller points of the coaster. And I think it actually might be, maybe not be the tallest point of the ride. I could be the Immelman, I'm not sure. Which was interesting. So but yeah, so going around here, I had to create some I had to like weave these supports in between the track below, which is also where the switch track is. So it was a little bit difficult and finicky, but we did and eventually figure out how to get those in those diagonal pieces. We had to just make a little bit wider to kind of go around the track underneath, and it ended up turning out pretty good. And then we had to do another support for the vertical drop. I did want to make sure, I did want to have a vertical 90-degree drop at some point on this ride. So yeah, it's just utilizing the um, just utilizing some gosh dang, I completely lost my train of thought at that point. So but I just wanted to utilize a lot of the inspiration from, um, you know, Ride to Happiness and Time Traveler, which are the two real life counterparts that we have to kind of go off of. And obviously, you could probably use a little bit of inspiration from other thrilling mock coasters as well, because just because they don't spin doesn't mean that you can't utilize that. I think the spinning coaster does utilize a little bit of wider track potentially, so that's kind of awesome. And I don't know if it's wider in Planet Coaster or not, or if they just reused the track from the Vector, which is the other counterpart, the non-spinning version of this coaster. But I'm not entirely sure. So yeah, the last bit of custom supporting I needed to do was for the Immelman here, just to utilize a nicer looking structure, and the rest is history on that. So we also went a little bit underground here, so I wanted to create like this little terrain wall that goes around where it dips under the terrain. So when you do place this in your parks, if you're utilizing the blueprint, you are going to have to do a little bit of terrain work around it just to form it around this wall. That's all you would have to do. And it should work pretty easily, and that's what I did. And I just utilized the flattened foundation to get it as close up to the wall as possible, and then we kind of covered the rest with like bushes and plants and such, and it which are included in the blueprint also as well. So all you have to do is just kind of get your terrain kind of pulled around in there. You know, it doesn't have to look pretty, but just get a nice. I just wanted to put like a little terrain wall in there because you'll often see stuff like that when they do utilize the terrain in these types of rides and such as well. Because I know Time Traveler has a lot of like little terrain walls and such like that. So, but yeah, I had to come back in here and finish up a little bit of the station because the station needed a little bit more detail because I didn't want it to be completely blank and boring. So we added a little bit of stuff on the outside also as well. And of course we had to do a queue line and an exit. And being so high off the ground, we had to do some stairs and ramps and such. And there's quite a bit of them because we have a load and unload station. So there was actually a lot of ramps and stairs that we had to utilize everywhere. And it's just kind of big, to be honest. There were just a lot of stuff going on there. And I tried to detail it as much as I could. But again, I wasn't going to focus too much on the queue line and such. It's mostly just focused mainly on the coaster itself. And that is where I wanted to put the most detail in. So as for the queue line, there was just, I just threw something together. Honestly, I know it's probably not the prettiest. Same with like the exit ramps, and this would be the staff ramp that utilizes it for the exit. This isn't the actual exit, but I feel like it would also be the ADA entrance as well, so I decided to make sure it didn't have any stairs on it. And then you have the unload station. So the ADA would get off in the same spot that they entered instead of the unload station, because the unload station would have exit stairs here as well. So I kind of thought about it a little bit, but you can see there's just a lot of path everywhere and a lot of stuff. So I decided to just utilize it. Like, hey, I could use these as the the actual support pillars for the walkways and the queue lines and such. So that's what we do here, and just just kind of lazily throw these in here as the support structure for our paths, which adds a little bit of detail to them. But I added a little bit more to queue line here just to kind of get us going and make sure we had an acceptable amount of queue, and then just kind of connect together all of the paths. That way you can just connect them into your park however you wish. So that turned out pretty cool. And then just to put a few market canopies around here on top of the pathways to give them a little bit of detail, but also a little bit of spots for shade for our guest. And then this wall was just a little bit bland, so I decided to go ahead and add some like trim pieces to kind of give it a little bit of pizzazz and make it look a little bit like kind of like, I guess, a barn slightly. So it's kind of like a little bit of a barn theming to it somewhat. So being a tornado theme, I thought having the station as a barn kind of made sense. But you can see like just the chaos of pathways there. It's just insane. So but it turned out pretty cool. And then, of course, it wouldn't be a video of mine without like a lot of trees, foliage, and scenery. So, of course, I had to surround the whole area with like trees and such, which is the last part of this video. But we had to get a little bit of light on the inside and do a little bit of lighting as well, because we needed to make sure that the everything's lit up on the inside. And the queue line has a little bit of lights as well for dark. I didn't focus too much on lighting. I did add some spotlights on some parts of the track, but I didn't, go all out on the light package here. But it would be more of a darker ride than actually have like a ton of spotlights and everything. But now we get into the trees, and I also end up putting in a little bit, or a tiny, sorry if that was loud, whacked my microphone, but we also put in a little perimeter fence at the end here as well. I think that's the last thing we do, but yeah, as you can see, this just makes the perimeter and makes the ride layout look a lot better once you place in a lot of trees. Now, I know a lot of people probably shout at me for not utilizing these the scenery brush, but I'm very specific of where I want my trees and such, so I never end up using it that much. I love that the feature's there, and I would utilize it in some aspect, but in a lot of aspects I end up placing individual trees myself usually, and that's just how I am. You don't have to do that, but that's how I utilize it myself, unfortunately. But yeah, so after this perimeter fence, that's gonna about do it for this video. At the end, make sure you stick around for all the cinematic stuff. Be sure to check this blueprint out on the workshop, and again, you do have to have the no limits mod to utilize it, to utilize that swing launch on this. But anyways, that's gonna about do it for this episode, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe for more amazing content like this, and again, stick around for all the cinematic videos. The POV, we do a spinning POV where on-ride POV, and then we do like a front bumper, so there's no spinning, so you guys can get the full experience in both ways, so you can kind of enjoy the track layout. But since it's a spinning coaster, you might want that front bumper view also, so I end up doing that in there. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the time lapse, guys. Thank you guys if you watched through the whole thing, and enjoy the cinematic of this video. So thank you guys, and of course I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much, and goodbye.